The alarms screamed across every defense station from Mars to Neptune. Captain Hyenwu gripped the armrest of his command chair as the sensors showed impossible readings. 300 warships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, materializing from faster-than-light travel. Like ghosts becoming solid, each alien vessel dwarfed Earth's largest battleship. The smallest of them could swallow the indomitable whole. Hyenwu had commanded Earth's flagship for 7 years, had faced pirates and territorial disputes with the outer colonies, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," his communications officer reported, her voice tight with fear. "Put it through," Hyenwu ordered. The view screen filled with an alien face. Tall, angular features with skin like polished bronze. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, the translation came through perfectly in dozens of human languages simultaneously. "Primitive species of the 3rd planet. I am Commander Thorin, of the Velkari Empire. Your civilization has been evaluated and found wanting. You have 72 hours to surrender completely and unconditionally. Dismantle your weapons. Ground your fleet. Prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the complete annihilation of your world and every human colony in this sector." The transmission shifted to show recordings. Planets burning under orbital bombardment. Cities melting under directed energy weapons. Worlds cracked open like eggs. 17 different civilizations, the Velkari claimed. 17 species that had refused to submit. "We do not bluff," Thorin continued. "We do not negotiate. Comply or die. You have 72 hours. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge of the Indomitable for 3 long seconds. "Get me Admiral Taeyang," Hyenwu said quietly. "Get me everyone." Then the hour, every ranking military officer and government official on Earth was connected through emergency channels. Hyenwu watched the main conference screen fill with faces. Some showed fear. Others showed anger. Many showed both. Admiral Taeyang appeared last, his weathered face calm despite the crisis. He had commanded Earth's combined military forces for 15 years, had overseen the expansion to 12 colony worlds, had prepared humanity for first contact, but not like this. Never like this. "Options," Taeyang said simply. "Can't fight them," the Secretary of Defense stated flatly. "Our entire fleet couldn't scratch one of those ships." "The technology gap is too wide, then we evacuate," someone suggested. "Get as many people off Earth as possible. Scatter to the colonies," he said. "Every human colony," Hyenwu reminded them. "They know where we are. All of us." The arguments went in circles. Fight and die. Surrender and live as slaves. Run and be hunted. Every option led to human extinction or the end of human freedom. The clock kept ticking. 72 hours was nothing. Dr. G1 spoke up from her station at the Xenolinguistics department. "Admiral, there's something odd about their transmission." "Odd how?" Taeyang asked. "The linguistic structure. They're trying to sound absolute, commanding, superior, but there are micro-patterns in the translation matrix. Emphasis patterns that don't match pure confidence. It's subtle, but I've analyzed it 6 times now. They sound like they're trying to convince themselves as much as us." "You think they're afraid?" Someone scoffed. "Of us? Did you see those ships?" "I think they're performing," G1 corrected. "Reading from a script designed to terrify us into compliance without fighting." Sujin, Earth's best intelligence officer, leaned forward on her screen. "That matches historical patterns from their other conquests. The Velkari always offer surrender terms first. They're efficient conquerors, not genocidal maniacs. They want workers, resources, territory. Destroying Earth costs them everything they came here to take." "So we call their bluff?" Hyenwu asked. "If we're wrong, billions die," Secretary of Defense countered. Admiral Taeyang raised one hand, and the argument stopped. Everyone knew that gesture. He made it when a decision was coming, when debate was over. "There is one option we haven't discussed," Taeyang said slowly. "One protocol I hoped we would never need to use." He entered a code into his personal terminal. A new classification appeared on everyone's screen. Most of them had never seen clearance levels this high. Omega Revelation. Taeyang Reed. Authorized for use only when humanity faces extinction and all conventional options have failed. Minister Jaesoon, are you on this channel? A new face appeared, older than Taeyang, with eyes that had seen too much. I'm here, Admiral. You're certain this situation qualifies? 300 warships with the power to glass our world? 72 hours until they expect our surrender. Yes, Minister. I believe this qualifies, and I'm activating the Omega Archive. All designated personnel are to report to Antarctic Facility 0 immediately. This includes you, Admiral. Captain Hyenwoo, you as well, Dr. Jiwon Sujin, and 20 others on the attached list. What's in Antarctica? Hyenwoo demanded. What's Omega Revelation? The truth, Minister Jae-sung said simply. About who we really are. About where we really came from. About what humanity used to be before we forgot. The conference call erupted with questions, but Jae-sung had already disconnected. Admiral Taeyang stood from his desk. All designated personnel have their orders. We leave within the hour. The rest of you begin evacuation protocols for major population centers. If this doesn't work, I want as many people as possible away from primary targets. Hyenwoo stared at his orders. Report to Antarctica. Maximum security transport. Tell no one. The mission classification was higher than anything he'd ever seen. Sir, his second officer asked quietly, what do we do about the Valkyrie? Hyenwoo looked at the long-range sensors still tracking those massive warships. They hung at the system's edge like a noose waiting to tighten. We pray, Hyenwoo said, that whatever is waiting in Antarctica is worth the trip. Because right now, prayer is all we have. The transport launched 12 minutes later. Hanwoo watched Earth shrink in the viewport, wondering if he would ever see it free again. Wondering what secret could possibly save them from 300 warships and an empire that had crushed 17 civilizations before humanity. The answer waited beneath 2 miles of Antarctic ice. Sleeping in the dark, the descent took 3 hours. The elevator shaft cut straight through the Antarctic ice sheet, passing through rock that had not seen daylight in millions of years. Hyenwoo stood beside Admiral Taeyang and Dr. Jiwon, watching the depth counter climb higher. 2 miles. 3 miles. 4 miles down into the frozen continent, Minister Jae-sung waited for them at the bottom, standing in a corridor that should not exist. The walls were smooth metal that reflected light in strange ways. The architecture felt wrong, too precise, built with mathematics that human engineers had only recently begun to understand. How long has this been here? Jiwon whispered. We found it in 2109, Ji-sung replied. The deep ice surveys detected the anomaly. When we finally reached it, we thought we had discovered an alien facility. We were half right. He led them deeper into the complex. More personnel arrived, scientists and military officers with the same confused expressions. Sujin appeared. Her intelligence analyst mind already working to categorize everything she saw. They entered a massive chamber filled with holographic displays and data. At the center stood a woman in a white coat, her gray hair pulled back severely. Dr. Yuna, according to her identification badge, quantum archaeologist, a field that had not existed 20 years ago. Please, everyone, take a seat, Minister Jae-sung said, gesturing to the arranged chairs. What you are about to learn is classified at the highest level. Fewer than 50 people on Earth know this truth. After today, you will be among them. The holographic displays activated, showing an image of Earth from space. Beautiful, blue and green and alive. This is our home, Jae-sung said. But it is not our first home, the image changed. Ancient structures on Mars, half buried in red sand. Geometric patterns too regular to be natural. Dr. Yuna stepped forward. For the past century, we have found anomalies throughout the solar system. Structures that predate known human civilization by tens of thousands of years. We dismissed them as alien ruins at first. But then we started finding genetic markers. The holographic display showed DNA strands, complex charts that Hyenwoo could not fully understand. But he understood the conclusion Dr. Yuna presented. Human DNA contains sequences that do not match natural evolution. Artificial modifications, extremely sophisticated, designed to enhance cognitive function and physical resilience. These modifications are at least 47,000 years old. They exist in every human alive today. You're saying we're genetically engineered? Sujin asked. We're saying our ancestors were, Dr. Yuna corrected. And they engineered themselves. We have found records, fragments of data preserved in quantum storage that should have decayed millennia ago. They tell a story. The holographic display shifted again. Star maps. Thousands of systems connected by trade routes and communication networks. A civilization spanning a vast section of the galaxy. Humanity once ruled an empire, Minister Jae-sung said quietly. We were not the peaceful explorers who reached the stars 300 years ago. We were conquerors, builders, masters of technology that makes the Valkyrie look primitive. Hyenwu felt his world tilting. That's impossible. We have archaeological records going back hundreds of thousands of years. Early humans were hunter-gatherers, stone tool users. Dr. Yuna agreed. Because 47,000 years ago, the empire fell. Not to external enemies, though that is the story we have pieced together from fragments. The empire fell because of civil war. Human fought human with weapons that could crack planets, ignite stars, destabilize entire stellar clusters. The displays showed devastation, worlds torn apart, stars dying before their time. Sections of space where physics itself seemed damaged, reality twisted into knots. The survivors faced a choice, Minister Jae-sung continued. Continue the war until humanity was extinct, or end it permanently. They chose to end it. They destroyed their technology, erased their records, scattered their weapons across dead systems where no one would find them. Then they came here, to this backwater planet at the edge of nowhere. They chose to forget, Dr. Yuna said. Deliberately. Completely. They reduced themselves to Stone Age technology and started over. A reset. A chance to rebuild without the weapons that nearly destroyed them. Some stayed behind in facilities like this one, preserving knowledge in case it was ever needed again. Then they died, and their descendants forgot why these places existed. The room sat in stunned silence. Admiral Taeyong had known Hyenwu realized. The Admiral's face showed no surprise, only grim acceptance. Why tell us this now? Gi-wan asked. What does ancient history matter when the Valkyrie are going to destroy us in 60 hours? Because of this, Minister Jae-sung said, the displays changed again, showing detailed technical specifications. Weapons, ship designs. Power systems that operated on principles human science had only theorized. The calculations scrolled past too fast to read, but the scale was clear. Terrible. Absolute. The protocol is simple, Jasun explained. We transmit everything we know about humanity's true history to the Valkyrie. We show them the weapons their own archives probably reference in their most ancient forbidden texts. We prove that humanity built things designed to fight threats the Valkyrie cannot imagine. Then we ask them one question. He brought up the final transmission template. Hyenwu read it, felt ice spread through his chest. Do you want us to remember? It's a bluff, someone protested. We can't actually build those weapons. We don't know how. We don't need to build them, Dr. Una said softly. Some of them still exist. She brought up new coordinates. Dozens of locations throughout the galaxy. Dead systems. Empty space. Orbits around neutron stars and black holes. We have been searching for 40 years, she said. Sending automated probes to locations referenced in the ancient fragments. We have found 17 weapons platforms still operational. Dormant, but functional. We found something else too. The display showed one platform in detail. Massive. Kilometers long. Covered in symbols that hurt to look at, geometry that seemed to fold space around it. This one activated 6 months ago, Dr. Yuna said. We don't know why. It is in standby mode, running diagnostics, as if preparing for something. We tried to access it, but it requires command authorization we do not have. So this is a bluff, Hien-Wu said. We threaten the Valkyrie with weapons we can't control. The threat does not require control, Admiral Taeyang said, speaking for the first time since entering the chamber. It requires credibility. We show them who we were. We show them what we built. We ask if they want to see what happens when humanity stops forgetting. That question, Captain, is not a bluff. It is a warning. Minister Jae-sung pulled up the transmission package. Everything prepared. Historical records. Technical specifications. Coordinates to weapon sites. Images of destroyed worlds from humanity's ancient civil war. The question is whether we send it, Jae-sung said. If the Valkyrie do not believe us, they will know our greatest secret. They will know we are vulnerable. They may decide complete extermination is safer than occupation. And if they do believe us? Su-jin asked. Then they understand they have threatened a sleeping giant, Taeyang replied, and they must decide if conquest is worth the risk of waking it. Hien-Wu looked at the transmission package. Humanity's greatest shame and greatest power wrapped together. The proof that humans had once burned across the stars like a wildfire, beautiful and terrible and unstoppable, until they stopped themselves. How long do we have to decide? He asked. Minister Jae-sung checked the countdown. 58 hours until the Valkyrie deadline. The transmission is ready. We need authorization from the Admiral and 3 ministers. I am one. 2 others are standing by. Admiral Taeyang looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Send it, he ordered. Humanity chose peace 47,000 years ago. If the Valkyrie force us to choose war, we will show them exactly what that means. The transmission uploaded. Minister Jae-sung's fingers moved across the controls, crypting, compressing, preparing to broadcast across every frequency the Valkyrie could receive. Message ready, he announced. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. The signal launched toward the Valkyrie fleet at light speed. For hours, until it arrived. For hours, until the empire that had conquered 17 civilizations learned. What humanity had been before they forgot. Hien-Wu wondered if they had just saved Earth or condemned it. Commander Thorin watched the human planet from his flagship's view screen. A beautiful world, blue and green, rich with resources. The conquest would be profitable. The humans would make adequate workers once properly controlled. 17 civilizations had fallen to the Valkyrie Empire using this exact method. Overwhelming force, impossible deadline, inevitable surrender. He had read the psychological profiles. Humans were emotional, easily frightened, prone to panic. They would submit within 48 hours. They always did. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld, his communications officer reported. Finally, Thorin said, their surrender terms. Display them. But the transmission was not surrender terms. It was a data package, massive, compressed but perfectly organized. Thorin felt the first flicker of unease as the files began to unpack. Historical records. Technical specifications. Star charts showing territory far beyond what humans currently controlled. Images of weapons that made Valkyrie battleships look like children's toys. What is this? Thorin demanded. The transmission included a video message. A human in military uniform, older, with eyes that had seen war. Admiral Taeyang, according to the identification tag. Commander Thoron of the Valkyrie Empire. You have demanded our surrender. We are transmitting this information, so you may make an informed decision about whether you truly wish to continue this course of action. What you are seeing is not propaganda. It is history. Our history. Verify the coordinates we have provided. Send your scouts. You will find we are telling the truth, the transmission continued. Images of human ships, ancient designs, cutting through space faster than anything Thorin had seen. Weapons firing on distant planets, cracking them open like ripe fruit. Stars dying, their fuel exhausted in seconds by devices that fed on stellar matter. Computer analysis, Thorin ordered. Is this fabrication? The ship's artificial intelligence worked for several minutes before responding. The technical specifications are consistent with advanced physics. The energy signatures match known quantum principles. If fabricated, it is the most sophisticated deception ever created. Probability of complete fabrication, 12%. 12%. Which meant 88% probability this was real. Scholar Navith appeared on Thorin's secondary screen. She was the fleet's historian, assigned to document the conquest for Velkari archives. Her face showed confusion and growing fear. Commander, I need access to the restricted historical files immediately. For what purpose? The humans called themselves something in this transmission. The Architects of Ash. That name appears in our oldest records. From species that existed before the Velkari Empire rose to power, they warned about the Architects. They said the galaxy survived only because the Architects chose to disappear. Thorin felt cold spread through his body. Access granted. Cross-reference everything. While Scholar Navith worked, Thorin studied the coordinates the humans had provided. 37 locations scattered across known space. He ordered scout ships to the 3 nearest positions. The first scout reported back within an hour. Commander, we have found an artificial structure in orbit around the neutron star at coordinate 77 Alpha. Size approximately 8 kilometers in length. Energy signature is active but minimal. The structure appears to be in standby mode. Scan it. Determine age and origin. The scout ship's sensors worked for 20 minutes. When the report came back, Thorin read it 3 times, certain there was an error. Age estimate, 45,000 years minimum. Origin, unknown. Technology level, significantly exceeds our current capabilities. Commander, this thing could destroy our scout ship without powering up beyond standby mode. Should we withdraw? Yes. Retreat to safe distance and observe. The second and third scouts reported similar findings. Ancient weapons platforms, still functional, still powered, waiting in the dark between stars. The humans had not lied. Scholar Navith appeared on his screen again. Her face was pale. Commander, I have completed the cross-reference. 6 different species in our historical database reference the Architects of Ash. The descriptions match. Human technology profiles. According to these records, the Architects disappeared approximately 47,000 years ago. After a civil war that destabilized 3 entire spiral arms of the galaxy, the surviving species were relieved. They had been preparing for the Architects to turn their attention outward. They believed extinction was coming. What happened to them? Thorin demanded. The records say they vanished, all at once. Every colony, every ship, every outpost. Some species believed they destroyed themselves. Others thought they transcended to a higher dimension, but one record suggests they simply stopped. The oldest Karmathi texts include a prayer, "May the Architects sleep forever, and may we never wake them." Thorin looked at Earth on his view screen. That beautiful blue planet. Those primitive humans with their small colonies and basic technology. They were the Architects. They had not transcended or died. They had reset themselves, becoming peaceful explorers. Forgetting the weapons that could end civilizations, the human transmission continued playing. Admiral Taeyong's recorded message reached its conclusion. We present you with 3 possibilities, Commander Thorin. First, you withdraw your fleet and never return. We continue to forget, and the galaxy remains peaceful. Second, you attack us, and we fight with our current technology until extinction. You win, but the cost will be significant. Third, you attack us, and we choose to remember everything we have forgotten. We reactivate the weapons our ancestors built. We become what we once were. The Admiral paused, and his expression showed something that made Thorin deeply uncomfortable. Not fear, not anger, sadness. Our ancestors buried this technology and destroyed their civilization because they realized the weapons were too dangerous to exist. They were not designed to conquer other species, Commander. They were designed to fight something else, something worse. Something that required the power to ignite stars and crack dimensions. We have forgotten how to fight that enemy. But the weapons remember. And if you force us to wake them, we cannot promise to control what happens next. The transmission ended with a simple question displayed in Velkari text. Do you want us to remember? Thorin sat in his command chair, surrounded by 300 warships, commanding enough firepower to sterilize a planet. He had never felt smaller. Scholar Navith, your recommendation. She appeared on screen looking as shaken as Thorin felt. Commander, the ancient records are consistent. The architects were the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. But they were also defenders, not conquerors. They built their weapons for a specific purpose. If they are warning us about something worse, we should listen. You recommend we withdraw? Thorin could not keep the disbelief from his voice. We have 300 ships. They have 12 colonies. Yes, Commander. I recommend complete withdrawal. If we attack and they truly remember how to use their weapons, we may not just lose the fleet. We may wake something the galaxy has been grateful to have sleeping for 47,000 years. Thorin looked at his tactical displays. The humans had 54 hours remaining before his deadline. Enough time for him to consult with Velkari High Command. Enough time for more scouts to verify the weapon platforms. But in his core, where instinct overrode politics and pride, Thorin already knew the truth. The humans had not been bluffing about their history, which meant they were not bluffing about the choice they offered. Remember and become the architects of Ash again, or forget and remain harmless. The Velkar Empire had conquered 17 civilizations, but those civilizations had not possessed weapons capable of killing stars. Those civilizations had not left platforms scattered across the galaxy that still functioned after millennia. Those civilizations had not once ruled territory that made the Velkari Empire look like a small kingdom. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal, Thorin ordered quietly. Sir? His second officer looked shocked. We have not received their surrender. Will not receive their surrender, Thorin replied, because we are not going to ask for it. Recall all scout ships. Plot a course back to Velkari space. We are leaving. The High Command will demand an explanation. They will receive one. I will not be the commander who woke the sleeping giant. I will not be responsible for reminding the architects of Ash that they once burned across the stars. Earth and its colonies are hereby designated restricted territory. No Velkari ship will approach within 10 light-years without direct authorization from the Emperor himself. Thorin looked at Earth one final time. That peaceful blue world where humanity had chosen to forget who they were. Where they had buried their power and started over with farming and simple tools. The bravest and most terrifying thing any species had ever done. The fleet began to turn. 300 warships retreating from 12 small colonies and one backwater planet. As they prepared to jump to faster than light speed, Skala Nevith sent one final transmission to Earth. A simple message, encrypted for Earth's leadership only. Prepare. The weapons are activating for a reason. Something is coming. Then the Velkari fleet vanished into the darkness between stars, leaving humanity alone with their terrible inheritance and their unwanted memories. 3 months after the Velkari fleet withdrew, Earth still had not returned to normal. How could it? Every person alive now knew the truth about humanity's past. The secret had spread despite the government's attempts to control it. The architects of Ash, the empire that had burned across the stars. Before choosing to forget, Captain Hyenwu stood in the Antarctic facility, now expanded with hundreds of scientists working around the clock. The ancient technology was being studied, catalogued, carefully examined, but not activated, not yet. Admiral Tae Young had been clear. Understanding their history was necessary, but repeating it was not. Dr. Jiwan worked at her station, analyzing the final message from Scholar Navith, the Velkari warning about something coming. About weapons activating for a reason. They had detected 17 more platforms powering up across the galaxy in the past month. Ancient human weapons, waking from their long sleep. Why now? Gi-1 muttered for the 100th time. What are they detecting? Dr. Daehyun, Earth's best astrophysicist, had been brought into the project 2 weeks ago. He looked exhausted, running calculations that made Hyenwu's head hurt just looking at them. Now, he stood suddenly, his face pale. I need Admiral Taeyan immediately, Daehyun said. And Minister Jae-soon. and anyone with clearance to access the complete ancient records. Within an hour, they gathered in the main conference room. Daehyun projected his findings onto the holographic display. I have been analyzing astronomical data going back 80,000 years from 6 different species archives, cross-referenced with the information we recovered from the ancient human facilities. There is a pattern, a cycle. He showed them a timeline. Massive disruptions in galactic background radiation occurring at regular intervals, approximately 50,000 years apart. These disruptions are not natural. They represent incursions from outside normal spacetime, something breaking through the dimensional barriers between our reality and somewhere else. The last major incursion occurred 47,000 years ago. The room went silent. Hyunwoo felt understanding dawn like ice water through his veins. The ancient war, he whispered. The civil war that destroyed humanity's empire. It wasn't a civil war at all. No, Daehyun confirmed. It was a defensive war. Humanity fought something that was trying to break into our dimension. The weapons they built, the terrible destructive power they unleashed, it was not intended for conquest. It was intended for survival against an enemy that treated physical reality as a suggestion. He brought up new data, recent sensor readings from across the galaxy, anomalies in subspace, gravitational fluctuations that had no natural explanation, energy signatures at the galactic rim that should not exist. The cycle is beginning again. 47,000 years since the last incursion, the preliminary signs are appearing. The ancient weapons platforms are detecting the same signatures they were programmed to watch for. That is why they are activating. Minister Jae-sung stared at the data, his old face growing older. How long until the full incursion begins? Unknown. The previous incursions showed increasing signs over a period of anywhere from 50 to 300 years before the barrier fully breached. We could have decades. We could have months. But it is coming. Admiral Tae-young looked at the weapon platform data. 17 confirmed activations. Another 34 showing preliminary power-up sequences. All of them in positions along the galactic rim, facing outward, toward the dark between galaxies. Our ancestors did not hide these weapons randomly, he said. They placed them as a defensive perimeter. A wall around the galaxy. A wall against what? Hyunwoo asked. Dr. Yuna had been silent until now, reviewing ancient text fragments on her tablet. She looked up, her face grave. I found a reference. Buried and corrupted data from one of the oldest facilities. The enemy has a name in the ancient human records. They called it the Convergence. Beings from a dimension where consciousness and matter are not separate. Where thought can reshape reality. When they breach into our dimension, physics becomes unstable. Planets dissolve. Stars collapse. Space itself tears. She showed them an image recovered from the corrupted files. Hyunwoo wished she had not. The thing in the image hurt to look at, geometry that should not exist, colors that had no names, shapes that his brain refused to process. The ancient humans fought this, he asked, forcing himself to look away. They did more than fight it, Yuna replied. According to this record, they won. They pushed the convergence back, sealed the dimensional barriers, built the weapons platforms to monitor for the next attempt. But the cost was catastrophic. The war weapons they used damaged reality itself in some sectors. Entire stellar clusters became uninhabitable. And the humans themselves, those who survived, they were changed, traumatized. They looked at what they had built, what they had become to fight that war, and they chose to erase it all. Better to forget than to remain armed, Ji-won said quietly. Better to be unprepared than to keep weapons that terrible in existence, Yuna agreed. They believed the convergence would not return for tens of thousands of years. They gave their descendants a chance to live in peace, to build a better civilization. They just did not anticipate we would be here when the cycle came around again. The room sat in heavy silence. Hyunwoo thought about Earth, peaceful and ignorant until 3 months ago. Humanity spreading slowly to nearby stars, exploring, learning, building, never knowing they were children playing in the ruins of giants. We have a choice to make, Admiral Tae-young said finally. We can attempt to reactivate the ancient defenses, learn to operate weapons we do not fully understand. Or we can prepare with what we know, our current technology, and hope it is enough. It won't be enough, Daehyun said bluntly. I have analyzed the power requirements for the ancient weapons. They operate on principles we are only beginning to theorize. One platform has more destructive potential than our entire fleet. We need them. Can we control them? Dr. Yuna looked uncertain. The platforms require command authorization, genetic markers, neural patterns, quantum signatures that match their original operators. We have found individuals on Earth who carry the closest genetic matches. But whether they can actually interface with systems designed 47,000 years ago, I cannot say.
Oh.
Sujin spoke up from her position. There is another factor. The Velkari. Skala Nevith warned us because she found the same information in their archives. Other species know about the cycle. If we are going to face this threat, we should not do it alone. Contact the Velkari. Someone asked in disbelief. They tried to conquer us. They withdrew when they understood the truth, Sujin countered. They chose wisdom over pride. That suggests they might be allies rather than enemies. Admiral Taeyong considered this. Commander Thorin seemed reasonable for someone who had brought a conquest fleet to our doorstep. And Scholar Nevith sent us warning rather than silence. There may be potential for cooperation if other species have records of the previous incursions, Giwan added. They may have information we lack. The ancient humans were not the only civilization that survived the last breach. Others must have fought as well. The decision formed slowly, built from necessity and desperate hope. They would activate the ancient weapons, but not alone. They would reach out to the Velkari, share what they had learned, and propose an alliance. Not conquest. Not subjugation. Cooperation against a common threat that made empire politics look trivial. Begin identifying genetic candidates for weapons interface training, Taeyang ordered. Dr. Yuna, Dr. Daehyun, I want a complete analysis of the platforms we can safely reach. Sujin, draft a message to Commander Thorin and the Velkari High Command. Tell them what we have discovered. Invite them to Earth for direct talks. And if they refuse, Hyenwu asked. Then we face the convergence alone, Taeyang said grimly. As our ancestors did 47,000 years ago, we survived then. We will survive now. But I would rather have allies. The meeting adjourned. Hyenwu walked through the Antarctic facility. Past scientists studying technology that predated agriculture, past genetic samples being compared to ancient command codes, past star charts showing the growing anomalies at the galactic rim. He thought about the peaceful blue planet above them, about the 12 colonies spreading slowly through nearby stars, about humanity's second chance at civilization, about how that chance was ending, not because of conquest or politics, but because the universe itself operated on cycles that did not care about peace or hope. The ancient weapons were waking up. The enemy was coming. And humanity, barely 300 years into their space age, is about to remember what their ancestors had spent 47,000 years trying to forget: how to fight a war against reality itself. Ji-hoon had been an ordinary engineer 6 weeks ago. He designed cooling systems for colony habitats, solved heat dispersion problems, lived a quiet life on Earth. Then the dreams started. Not dreams exactly. Memories that were not his own, flooding into his mind while he slept and sometimes while awake. He knew things he had never learned. Quantum field equations appeared fully formed in his thoughts. He looked at Earth's fastest ships and saw their inefficiencies. He understood how to improve them using principles that human science had not yet discovered. It terrified him. The government found him quickly. Apparently, he was not alone. 847 people across Earth and the colonies were experiencing the same phenomenon. All of them carried specific genetic markers. All of them were descendants of the ancient humans who had operated the weapons. Platforms now, Ji-hoon stood in the Antarctic facility, alongside 40 others selected for the first expedition. Commander Hyjin briefed them in the main conference room. She was career military, tough and efficient, chosen to lead the team that would attempt to interface with the nearest ancient facility. The station is located in the Urt cloud, Hyjin explained. showing them images of a massive structure orbiting in the dark beyond Pluto. It powered up completely 2 weeks ago. We have been monitoring its transmissions. It is broadcasting recognition codes, searching for command authority. That is where you come in. She looked at Ji-hoon and the others with genetic markers. You carry the keys in your DNA. Literally, the ancient humans encoded command protocols into their genetic structure, passed down through generations. Those protocols are awakening in you now. We need to see if they can actually interface with the weapons systems. The journey to the Orc Cloud took 3 days aboard Earth's fastest ship. Ji-hoon spent the time talking with the others like him. A teacher named Hae-won, who now understood gravitational physics better than any professor. A doctor called Minho, who suddenly knew biology that would revolutionize medicine. A young artist named Subin, who could visualize 4-dimensional space. Zizali is drawing a picture. They were all ordinary people becoming extraordinary against their will. The ancient knowledge was not gentle. It carved itself into their minds, overriding ignorance with terrible understanding. When they reached the station, Ji-hoon understood why the ancient humans had hidden it so far from Earth. The structure was 12 kilometers long, built from materials that should not exist, covered in symbols that seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. Just being near it made him feel small and afraid. The station's AI responded to their approach. A voice spoke through their ship's communication system. Using a language Ji-hoon did not know but somehow understood perfectly. Command genetic markers detected. Authorization protocols initiated. Please identify purpose of activation request. Commander Hae-jin looked at Dr. Yuna, who had accompanied them as chief archaeologist. Yuna nodded, and Hae-jin spoke carefully. Hey, we seek knowledge. The cycle is beginning again. The convergence is returning. We need to understand how to defend against it. Silence for a long moment. Then the AI responded, its voice carrying something that sounded almost like sadness. Confirmed. Dimensional barrier degradation detected at 17 million points along the galactic rim. Estimated breach window, 14 to 48 months. Accessing historical combat records. Initiating educational protocols. The station opened and they entered. Ji-hoon felt the ancient knowledge in his DNA resonating with the facility's systems. It recognized him, welcomed him, began teaching him what he learned over the next week, changed everything he thought. He knew about humanity's past. The Civil War story had been a cover, a simplified lie that the survivors told themselves to explain the destruction. The truth was more complex and more terrible. Ancient humanity had been peaceful explorers, much like modern humans. Then the convergence had found them. The first breach had occurred without warning. Entire colonies simply vanished, consumed by entities that existed outside normal physics. Ancient humanity had been unprepared, armed only with conventional weapons that were useless against enemies that could reshape reality. They adapted, built weapons that operated on similar principles to the convergence itself. Quantum destabilizers that could damage dimensional barriers. Stellar igniters that used stars as ammunition. Reality anchors that stabilized space-time even as the convergence tried to dissolve it. The war lasted 600 years. Ancient humanity became masters of destructive technology, fighting an enemy that had conquered 17 other dimensions before finding theirs. Billions died. Whole sectors of the galaxy became unstable. But humanity won. The cost was what drove them to forget. The weapons they had built were too dangerous to keep. Veterans of the war, those who had seen stars die and dimensions collapse, they looked at what they had become and wept. Warriors so efficient at destruction that they frightened themselves, so they reset, hid the weapons, erased the knowledge, went to Earth and started over with agriculture and simple tools. They hoped the convergence would never return, or if it did, that whoever faced it next would find a better way than they had. But there is no better way, the station AI told Ji-hoon, as he absorbed century after century of combat records. The convergence does not negotiate. It does not retreat. It consumes and moves on. The only defense is overwhelming force applied at the dimensional breach points before they fully stabilize. Ji-hoon returned to Earth with knowledge that made him want to cry. He was 28 years old, an engineer who had worried about cooling systems and energy efficiency. Now he understood how to ignite stars, crack planets, and tear holes in reality. The ancient protocols in his DNA had interfaced perfectly with the weapons systems. He could operate the platforms. All 847 individuals with the genetic markers could. They were the new architects of Ash, whether they wanted to be or not. Admiral Taeyong convened another emergency council. This time, they had guests. Commander Thorin and Scholar Nevith had arrived from Velkari space with representatives from 11 other species. All of them had found similar warnings in their ancient archives. All of them faced the same threat. "We have a choice," Taeyang addressed the assembly. "We can activate the weapons, restore the ancient defenses, and become what humanity once was. Warriors with the power to kill galaxies, or we can try to face this threat differently. Together," Captain Hyenwoo answered. He stood beside Ji-hoon and the others with awakened genetic knowledge. The ancient humans fought alone. They won, but they destroyed themselves in the process. We have something they did not. Allies. Multiple species, multiple technologies, multiple perspectives. Scholar Navith leaned forward. "You propose a coalition. Shared defense using combined resources." "I propose we use the ancient weapons," Hyenwoo clarified. "But we do not use them the same way. The platforms are defensive systems designed to detect and seal dimensional breaches. We activate those functions. We coordinate with all species in the galaxy. We face the convergence not as separate civilizations, but as one unified defense, and the offensive capabilities." A representative from the Karmathi delegation asked, "The weapons that can ignite stars and crack reality? Those are the tools of conquerors." 8. "Those are the tools of the desperate," Ji-hoon said quietly. Every eye turned to him. "I have seen the combat records. Read the histories. The ancient humans hated those weapons. Used them only when conventional methods failed. We do not build an empire. We build a shield."
"Doctor,"
Juan spoke up, her linguistic analysis complete. "Every species here has records of the last convergence. None of them fought. They hid, survived by chance, lived in the ruins while humanity bled to stop the invasion. This time, you have the opportunity to stand with us, to share the burden instead of hiding and hoping." The alien delegations conferred among themselves. Hyenwoo watched them debate, knowing the decision balanced on a knife's edge. If the coalition formed, they had a chance. If each species retreated to their own territory, the convergence would consume them one by one. Commander Thoron stood. "The Velkari Empire commits its resources to this alliance. We will coordinate our fleet with the defensive platforms. We will share our technology and our personnel. Scholar Navith, you will serve as liaison between Velkari Command and Earth leadership." One by one, the other species agreed. Not out of friendship, not out of trust, out of recognition that the alternative was extinction. Over the next months, the galaxy transformed. The ancient weapons platforms came fully online, operated by Ji-hoon and the others, with genetic command authority. But they retained their humanity, their modern values, their choice. They were not the warriors of old. They were engineers and teachers and doctors who happened to carry ancient knowledge, using it carefully, reluctantly, only as needed. Alien species contributed their own technology. The Karmathi had shields that could deflect dimensional intrusions. The Velkaria had sensors that could detect breaches before they formed. A species called the Torvathi had weapons that operated on quantum principles humans had never imagined. It was not perfect. Trust came slowly. Old rivalries and suspicions remained, but the threat focused them. The growing anomalies at the galactic rim affected everyone.